Welcome to the Crimson Engine. My name is 𝙒𝙃𝙄𝙄𝙄. Today we are talking the differences between the C70 and the R5C, both Canon cinema cameras, both around the same price, give or take $1,000. But which one is right for you and the films that you plan to make? So there are a ton of videos made about the R5 versus the C70. And now that there is an R5C, which massively upgrades the R5's video codecs and monitor modes and overall video ability, the question has only become more complicated. So I thought I would sit down and, as someone who has both and has shot with both, what are the strengths and weaknesses of each camera, and what kind of camera do you need for shooting what you're going to shoot? So let's talk about the strengths of the R5C. It has an 8K sensor, able to shoot RAW. The size of the sensor gives it excellent low light capabilities. Downsized to 4K, it gives an incredibly sharp, snappy image. It probably has the best autofocus of all of the Canon cinema cameras. And it's incredibly small. It's only about a 1/4 inch deeper than the R5C, which means it's a mirrorless stills camera. So there is very little weight or size when transporting it, which can make it ideal for travel cinematography and photography. Unlike the R5, it shoots in the excellent XFAV-C, which is a very high quality, workable codec. And it has all the exposure tools like false color, the ability to load LUTs into the camera that we're missing on the R5. The C70, on the other hand, has wider dynamic range. It has internal ND filters. It has a full-size HDMI port versus a micro on the R5C, and it has normal-sized timecode in and XLR audio ports. So the way I see these two cameras comparing, much in the same way as a zoom lens versus a prime lens. The zoom lens isn't quite the quality of the prime lens. It's 80% the quality, and it's not quite as fast as the prime lens. You never get the full T1.2 or T1.5 on zoom lenses. But when you're working alone, a zoom lens is so much easier than swapping out lenses. You can move so much quicker with a zoom lens than you can with a set of primes. And most people don't need the extra stop of light or the extra 10 or 20% of quality. And so a zoom lens is the right choice for them. That is how I feel about the C70. It is a much quicker camera to work with. The battery life is much, much better than the R5C. You can set up your shots and get shooting that much quicker. And if you're someone who shoots weddings or event videos, educational videos, social media content like this, then the C70 is really a good choice for you. You'll be able to travel lighter. You'll be able to set up quicker. You'll be able to miss fewer shots, and you'll be able to shoot more footage than you would with the R5C. If you're not shooting that much footage though, if you're only shooting about 10 or 20 minutes of lots of smaller shots, but you want those shots to have the maximum quality that they can have, the R5C is going to be a better choice. The R5C image is superior in quality to the C70. Even though the C70 has more dynamic range, there's more resolution obviously, there's a lot more detail. You will need to bring some kind of ND filter. You will need to rig the camera out, possibly with an external batteries, or shoot for smaller intervals and recharge in between. But the image quality coming off the R5C sensor is better than that coming off the C70. Not by much, by 10 or 20% maybe. Even that's a stretch, maybe 5 or 10%. But there is a marked increase in quality on the R5C. If you want to do gimbal work, the R5C has an advantage because it's that much smaller and it shoots in higher resolution, and its autofocus is just a little bit better. So you sort of have this weird layered approach where if you're just shooting very short clips, handheld, out in nature, say you're shooting B-roll while you're hiking, the R5C is actually the better choice for that. If you're shooting the middle of the road stuff, which makes up most of the cinematographer's art, events, talking heads, interviews, corporate stuff, documentary type stuff, then the C70 has a lot of advantages, principally dynamic range, battery life, internal NDs. But then if you're going into a fully rigged cinema situation where you're using prime lenses and you're rigging the camera out and it's on a tripod or on a Steadicam, then again, the R5C has the advantage because of that added image quality and the larger sensor. Now, the dark horse in this discussion is photography, because no one has an unlimited budget. If you're looking at the R5C and the C70 together and working out which one you want to do for video, they have strengths and weaknesses. But if you also need to shoot photographs, if you get the C70, you then need to spend another $2,000 or $3,000 on a dedicated still camera, and your R5C plus stills camera combination comes into $8,000, which is twice the price of the R5C. And then the R5C has a clear advantage. That's why the R5C is such a killer combination. It has both of those things to a high level. It shoots great video with all the exposure tools that you need to capture it in the right way, and then it also shoots amazing stills. I have created courses for both of these cameras. They're both around 3 hours long. They go in depth to all of the features of these cameras, how best to utilize them to shoot the best image possible in the fastest way. You can buy the individual courses, or you can subscribe to the entire site for just $15 a month. When I purchase things like cameras or lights or cars, I like to use game theory, in particular a theory called Minimax, which is you try and minimize the maximum thing that can go wrong. If you look at Facebook groups about these cameras, you'll see a lot of people complaining about the softness of the C70 image, or especially about the battery life of the R5C. If you 100% absolutely need your images to be sharp and as large as possible, then buy the R5C. You will not get what you want from the C70 and will be disappointed. On the other hand, if you run gun your camera for hours on end, say you shoot documentaries off the grid or you shoot weddings, then it makes so much more sense for you to get the C70 and have access to the BP60s or BP90 batteries that can power this camera and accessories all day without having to even think about it. You will not have a good time with the R5C. That is my take on both of these cameras, their respective strengths and weaknesses. Check out Canon Masterclass for more about these cameras. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.